Welcome to Selling in the Motor Trade, in association with Automotive Management and Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips, and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett, or some of you might already know me as Skippy. And firstly, I want to say thank you for taking the time to tune in. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. You know what? So many times people say, hey, Skippy, can you help my sales team with closing the sale? So many times I get individual people turning up on training courses. Hey, my weakness is closing. Just help me close the deal. I want to close. Isn't that what selling is all about? Now, listen, I've got to tell you, so many times where salespeople can't close something, so often it's because they haven't opened up properly. Remember, you can't close something that hasn't been opened. But you know what? We need to do something on closing because we've got 105 episodes out there now. This is another one of those solo episodes, one that you can share with your sales team and get immediate impact and results in your sales meeting. But so many times I know people are going to go and click through that close, let me close. That's what I need, okay? So if you're a sales manager, you're an investor, you're a dealer principal listening to this, I urge you to go and have a look at some of the other modules on selling in the motor trade that might help your team first. If you're a salesperson, you just want to know, give me that fix, give me how to close, this one's for you. We're going to kick around a few ideas on how to close something. But again, please do me a favor. Don't forget, you can't close something that hasn't been opened up properly. Make sure you raise the desire in that car, the product or the deal before you get to the close. Make sure you've trial closed before you come to asking a closing question. And also, when you ask the closing question, never forget, and I might be a little bit controversial here, but I don't believe the purpose of a closing question, I don't believe it's to close the sale. Take that as a bonus. I believe the purpose of a closing question is to uncover the objection that you know you're going to get. You're going to close the sale by overcoming that objection, okay? Now, this is what I mean, okay? The rules to close. Number one, be confident, okay? You want to come out there and say, hey, great news, got some really good numbers here for you. It's a big walk, big smile. There's a man called Neil Perrin. Hello, Neil Perrin, fan of the show from the RRG group. He always says, big walk, big smile when you're walking out to a customer. You want to do that, okay? Be confident. So you want to walk out and say, number one, great news, got some really good figures here for you. Okay. Hey, great news. Got some really good numbers here for you. That's number one. Number two, maintain eye contact. Have you ever spoke to someone on a beach in Spain wearing those glasses, or worse, those mirrored sunglasses? Isn't it off-putting? Don't we trust people maintaining eye contact? Now, listen, the data tells us that most of you people are listening to this podcast and not watching it on YouTube, okay? So the people who are listening in the car, going for a jog or whatever, you can't see my eye contact at the moment. However, if you are watching this on YouTube, don't we trust people maintaining eye contact? I'm looking right at you at the moment. But if I turn around and say, hey, listen, I've got some really good ideas on closing. I know this is going to help your sales team. If you listen to this, I'm looking around everywhere. We just don't trust people. Now, that's the downside in a modern car dealership when you're presenting the numbers on a screen or you're presenting the numbers on some sort of a deal stacker, a Foursquare, a deal presentation sheet or something like that. If it's that sheet, you and your customer's eyes are looking down at the numbers. If it's on that screen, it's like a child with an iPad. You try and get their attention. They're not hearing anything you're saying. So what I recommend you use is what we call the magic pen. Now, listen, if you come on any of our sales training courses, in fact, if you look at our sales fitness program, listen, it's $299 sterling. This is where we have the first 90-day program. We have our sales masterclass, our today's service advisor programs. Listen, a lot of you guys have probably got your salespeople on that anyway. There's a shameless plug for you. So listen, go to our website, get a free trial on it, okay? And we talk lots in that about the magic pen, how your salespeople can direct the gaze of your customer by where they're looking. So number one, be confident. Number two, maintain eye contact. You might be pointing at the number on the screen with your magic pen and then just coming back to your face all the time. You might be pointing at the number on the Foursquare, the deal stacker in front of you, and then bringing back up to your face to maintain eye contact. Number three, you're just going to ask for the business. And you're going to ask probably 3 or 4 different ways. And on our Road to a Sale training course, we just focus on 4, and we talk about matching up the closing question to the type of customer you got. We talk about there's the lions, the puppy dogs, the snakes, and the mouse. You may have heard them before, the reds, the yellows, the greens, or the blues, okay? Some of you guys might have heard them, the drivers, the expressives, the amiables, or the analyticals. Call them what you want, but we talk about qualifying the type of customer you have and matching the closing question to who's in front of you. So let's just first look at a direct close. So direct close is just what it says on the 10. It's direct. So of course, we're going to use this closing question for that lion, that red customer, that direct customer. Someone that you've got commitment first that the car's right for them. You've trial closed, okay? And again, there's lots of trial closing questions. On our sales fitness program, I think we talk about 6 different trial close questions where we're looking for commitment that the car's right before we start talking about the numbers, okay? Hey, by the way, if you're a salesperson, listen to this because your boss has said, go back and listen to how to close a few deals. Make sure you've trial closed first. When our sales team go into dealerships and we're working with real salespeople, with real customers, so often it's the qualification's not right, or there's no trial close, no commitment, and we're trying to close someone that they weren't in the right position to be closed. So make sure you get that right. But here's a direct close. And I'm going to use some real simple numbers here, okay? Of course, in your business, you could add zeros to all these low numbers, but I always use these numbers on our training courses because it makes it quick and easy for me to remember. I don't need a calculator, but hey, let's say the price of the car is 10 grand for that Porsche Taycan. Nice and cheap. It's 2 grand for their Porsche 911 for an 8,000 balance. And the payments over 36 months is, I don't know, something like 270 a month. And over the 48 months, it's going to come down to 209. Here's how you do a direct close. Great news, Mr. Customer. Got some really good numbers here for you. Now, the price of that Taycan, the one that's got the X, the Y, the Z on it, you said you really wanted, that works out at 10,000 euros. Now, the current market value on your car is 2,000, which works out 8,000 balance. Now, that's going to work out at 270 over the 36 months. It's going to come right down to 209 over the 48 months. Shall we secure that for you? Shall we go ahead with that? Shall we get that ordered for you? Do you see how it's just a blunt direct? Should we secure it? By the way, I love secure for that used car customer. Don't people like security in their life? Should we get that ordered for you? That's good for the new car customer. Hey, should we go ahead with it? Now, what's the downside of a direct close? That's right. I can hear you. You're sitting there thinking, well, they might say no. Here's where I'm going to be controversial. I don't think that's the downside, okay? Most of my customers say, no, I want to think about it. No, that's not enough for my car. No, I'm not paying $270 a month. I quite like that because I've uncovered the objection, and you'll close the sale by overcoming the objection. You see, when I first started selling cars, I thought the closing question, people would magically, I'd ask the closing question and they'd say, shall we secure that for you? Oh, yes, please. Thank you. But it doesn't normally happen. So here's how I look at it now. And this is going to be proud dad talking about my little boy for a while. And actually, he's not that small now. But some of you guys who know me know I fly little daft planes. My son has been addicted to flying light planes. In fact, on his 16th birthday, he went solo. That means he just jumped in a plane all by himself and went off without any instructor. Okay, that's really scary, sitting there watching my pride and joy go up into the air all by itself. I mean, my son could have bent the prop, could have bent the undercarriage or anything. No, but in all seriousness, he went off by himself. On his 17th birthday, he's got his full pilot's license. He's now 19 and he's preparing for his first aerobatic competition. He can do things in a plane I've never been able to do. Okay. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do. Okay. He's sensational plane. But here's the funny thing. His instructor has taught him different to when I learned to fly. You see, light aircraft engines are super, super reliable. The plane I fly, it's a 3.3 litre engine, but only produces 120 brake horsepower. That's hardly anything for that size of engine. It only turns over at 2,800 RPM because they want that engine to be really, really reliable. I've been flying for 22 years now. I've never had an engine failure. In fact, down the Aero Club, I don't know hardly anyone who's had an engine failure because they're so rare. But that's what was killing people. You see, people were getting an engine failure. They were panicking. They wouldn't know what they were doing. They'd slow down too much. The wing would stall and they end up spinning in. So that's where, again, when I did my PPL learning, my private pilot's license 22 years ago, yes, we did practice forced landings, okay? Every 2 years, we have to go back and do effectively a flight test, and the instructor will make sure that we know how to do PFLs and engine failures on takeoff and whatever. However, the way they taught James and my son is different. I think it's very clever. I think it's the way that I want all my salespeople are trained to think about the closing question. You see, the instructor told James that, James, when this plane's taking off, this engine, you've got to think, is going to fail. Your job is to work out what you're going to do when it fails. If the engine doesn't fail, take it as a bonus. And apparently they started doing this after Sully, you may have heard, the guy that landed the plane on the Hudson. Now, if you go and watch that movie, they talk about a little bit in there. When he had the engine failure, apparently, if he turned back immediately, there were 3 airfields he could have got it to. Now, I was very privileged in my life. I've met Sully. I've seen him speak at a conference. He is a legend, so please don't take it the wrong way, okay? I think the guy is a superstar, okay? I don't think he'll ever be listening to this, but if you are, I'm so impressed with what he's done. But in the movie, they talk about this a little bit. If he turned back immediately, he could have got to 3 different airfields. But of course, who would have a double engine failure on a jet? It had never happened beforehand. They weren't trained for it. So actually, there was a little bit of almost panic time. Now, we don't know exactly what happened, but when both engines stopped, there must have been a time when they say, what's happened? What do you mean both engines have gone wrong? That can't be right there. So actually, if you look at the movie, what they did is, if he turned back immediately, these experts always were able to land it at 3 different airfields. But afterwards, they built in, I think it was 30 seconds, maybe a minute of reaction time. Okay, they don't call it panic time in the aviation industry, but there's some sort of reaction time, because there must be a time you think, what happened? And then if they turn back after that 30 seconds or a minute, none of them could get the plane safely back to where they could have got it safely back. So what Sully did, it became evident that he'd done exactly the best thing he could when you take that reaction time into account. So now when James takes off, okay, he's talking to himself. That's the other thing his instructor taught him to do, okay? So he's taking off, and it's quite funny. He's taking off, and I'm listening to him talk to himself. He says, right, I'm going to put it back on the runway now, just after he's taken off. Then a few seconds later, he says, right, I'm going to put it in the field to the left. Now I'm going to put it over the high tension wires on the right-hand side. Now I'm going to go on the other side of Ellesmere Lake, okay? And it's only when he sees cruising altitude, he stops talking to himself. I thought, wow, that's really clever. Now, I hope he never has an engine failure, but if he does, he knows exactly what he's going to do with it. I thought, wow, that's how I've got to teach this closing question. I used to think I'd ask a closing question and customers would miraculously say, yeah, that's the one I want to go ahead with. Now, that happens sometimes, but no, most of the time they say, I want to think about it. That's not enough for my car. So now I believe the purpose of the closing question is not to close the sale. Just take that as a bonus, okay? The purpose of the closing question is to uncover the objection you know you're going to get and be prepared to deal with when someone says, I want to think about it. That's not enough for my car. Down the road, I've got a lot cheaper price. Okay, that's far too much a month. What APR is that? Now, of course, if you want to know how to deal with all of that sort of stuff, hey, go and have a look at our sales training programs, the sales fitness program. Of course, we talk about all of that stuff. But the close is to uncover that objection. So that's the first one, the direct close. Should we secure that for you? Should we go ahead with that? Should we get that ordered for you? Next close down is great for the puppy dog. Okay, some of the tests that some of you've done in other businesses, the yellows, the expressive type customers. You might try an alternative close. I love this one. Alternative close is just two options that you don't care which one it is. Okay, like on an alternative question, they're great because right now, listen to this podcast. What do you prefer, tea or coffee? Still or sparkling water? Apple or orange juice? Red or white wine? When I'm doing that, you might be saying red, still water, okay, tea, prefer coffee. If I said, what type of drink do you want? You can say anything. You can say, I don't know, Jaeger bombs, okay? But if I say, what do you prefer, tea or coffee? It kind of limits the choice. And here's the other thing. It works really well because it's super hard for the human mind not to answer a question. Sure, of course, anyone can choose not to answer it out loud, but your mind has to answer it. So if we put that into a closing context, we're going to give your customer two choices. Okay, so let's look at the same numbers, right? The price of that Taycan, the one that is the rear-wheel drive, it's the poverty pack model that has stuff and all in it, okay, is $10,000. The current market value on your Lamborghini Diablo is $2,000, which works out an $8,000 balance. Now that works out at $270 over the 36 months, or it comes down to $209 over the 48 months. Now, Mrs. Customer, did you want to do that over the 36 months, or is it more comfortable for you over the 48? Or Mr. and Mrs. Customer, did you want to order that car in the iridescent snowflake or the dog willy red? No, that's not the color of a new car that Holden's bought out or something like that. Just two choices you don't care, okay? Hey, listen, did you want to pick that car up next Thursday, or would Friday be better for you? It's just two choices that you don't really care which one it is, okay? Now, that's the alternative close, okay? Works really, really well because you're not asking people, do you want to go ahead with it? But it's how do you want to go ahead with it? Now, listen, I know lots of our clients listen to this, but you'll know that selling sales training programs to you guys will often give you an alternative choice. Hey, listen, do you want to do it this way or do you want to do it that way? We'll do it that way. It's just often two choices, okay? Hey, clearly, you've got to pick two choices that you're happy with both of them, okay? So that's the alternative close. Next on down is a summary close. Any ideas what a summary close is? Now, if you're Dave Byrne, listen to this. Hi, Dave from Phoenix, okay? Dave always said, I know what summary closes are. They're clothes you don't wear in winter. No, not quite, Dave, okay? A summary close is lots of little yeses to get to a big yes. And you're summarizing the customer's qualification. So early on, if we ask the customer, hey, listen, what's about that Taycan that put it on your shopping list? And they say, oh, I love the idea of going EV now, I go electric vehicle now. Whenever I do the school run, all the kids are looking at me like they're little Greta Thunbergs. I've got to get out of this dirty diesel. It's running on diesel, devil's juice or something like that, dinosaur juice, okay? That's the real reason I'm changing, okay? We're going to tie this into a summary close. So great news, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. The price of that Taycan is $10,000. Listen, that's the one that's the EV now, so you're not having to worry about dropping the kids off in that car running on diesel. It's got the pan roof on it that you really wanted to bring the sunshine in the car in the winter because you grew up in a hot country, okay? That's going to work out at 10,000 euros. The current market value on your donkey is 2,000, which works out 8,000 balance. That's going to work out at 270 over the 36 months. It's going to come right down to 209 over the 48 months. Now, you said you wanted the four-wheel drive Taycan, not just the rear-wheel drive, just because in the middle of winter, you think it's going to have better grip, and it will. You said you want it before the school holidays, and we can have this on the 28th of September, 2029 at the moment, and well and truly time before those school holidays. Oh, sorry, that's a bit of a joke if you're still struggling with stock in most new car departments. You said you wanted to keep your payments around $1,200 a month, and we're there or thereabouts. Or in this case, you said you want to keep your payments around $250 a month. We're there or thereabouts if you do it over the 36 or 48 months. You said you wanted it in iridescent snowflake, and we've got one of the last iridescent snowflake color cars in the country. So it sounds like we found the right car for you. See how it's just lots of little yeses to get to the big yes. Okay, so it sounds like we found the right car for you. That's a summary close. We find that works really well for the analytical customer, the blues, the snakes, okay? Because it deals with their analytical approach. Last one I want to talk about today is the assumptive close. You see, the assumptive close, you're not even really asking for the order. And this one comes from a man called Ash. Now, you know that we always like to give credit to where we nicked ideas from. If you've listened to this podcast enough, you know that we do a lot of R&D in our business, not research and development. It's called rob and duplicate where we come from, okay? Or rob and distribute, okay? And this one comes from Ash. Now, let me tell you where Ash is. Ash worked in a Volkswagen dealership in Wrexham, okay? That's in Wales. Now, I know we've got lots of listeners in this, in Australian market, Canada, America. Let me tell you that Wrexham in Wales, the Scottish comedian Billy Connolly would say if Wales needed an enema, Wrexham's where they'd insert it. Probably just offended everyone from Wrexham now, but this area here in Wales, this dealership was on the back end of Wrexham. And Ash there was a great salesperson. Let me tell you, Ash was over a 300 a year man all day long. And Ash, you'll probably send me through a text and tell me how many you sold. I think your record was definitely well over 300, but he was a big hitter. In fact, he's now the dealer principal of that site. But at the time when I heard this and stole it from him, he was a salesperson. And you see, I was in the dealership doing one of our coaching visits that we did this day. And I walked out to get a sandwich at lunchtime. Now, I overheard this lovely old couple having this conversation. He's getting the car ready for us, but we haven't bought it yet. I know, but he's getting the tow bar fitted. I don't think he is. We haven't said yes. I know, you need to go back and tell him we haven't said yes. I don't think he is. He is. It was this weird conversation. Anyway, they turned around and walked back in to see him. I thought that was strange. So I got my sandwich. I come back after lunch and they're sitting at Ash's desk signing up. So I waited till they left and I said, hey, Ash, what was this all about? And I relayed the story that I heard. He said, oh, I don't know, Skippy. Maybe it's my cheeky little closing question. I said, come on, Ash, you got to tell me what that is. He said, no, Simon, you'll be telling everyone else. Oh, of course I wouldn't. It's not like I'm a sales trainer as I'm crossing my fingers. And you know what? This is a great one. This is Ash's. Thanks, Ash. So anyway, this is what he does. Very assumptive, okay? And the phrase is, would you do me a favor? Such a powerful phrase. Do you know people say yes without knowing what it is? Let's say the car had to get a tow bar fitted and maybe it was, I don't know, parking sensors, something like that, okay? This is a few years ago now, okay? But this is what Ash does. He'll turn around and say, great news, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. I've got some great figures here for you. Now, the price of that Golf GTD is $10,000. That's the one that's got the X, the Y, the Z on it you said you wanted. Now, the current market value on your Corsa is $2,000, which works out $8,000 balance. Now, that works out at $270 over the 36 months. It comes right down to $209 over the 48 months. Now, I'll be able to have the car ready for you by next Tuesday because I've got to fit the tow bar and the parking sensors. But, hey, listen, would you do me a favor? but you give him until Thursday just to get that car ready. Look what he's done there. I'll be able to have that car ready for you by next Tuesday, or would you do me a favor? Will you give me till Wednesday just to get the car ready? How many times might a customer say, oh yeah, Wednesday will be fine? He just leans forward and assumptively shakes their hand. Now, I don't think for an instant Ash would get lots of people naturally walking back into the dealership. I think he got lucky on that one. But what I uncovered that day was his lovely little assumptive close. So listen, there's just 4 different closes, but what we need to do is be confident. Great news, got some really good figures here for you. Number 2, you need to maintain eye contact. Use that magic pen. Number 3, ask one of these closing questions. And then number 4, after that, shut up. Be quiet. Now, some of you experienced people, listen to this. The phrase that's jumping into your head right now is, he who talks first loses. Now, firstly, I've got to say, I am really uncomfortable with the thought of someone buying a car losing, okay? And of course, in 2022, it's probably not that politically correct. He who talks first loses, she who talks first loses. But leaving all that out, okay? There's magic in silence. Ask the question and shut up. This is where some people get it wrong, though. They present the deal and they shut up before they've asked the closing question, okay? Or they talk past the close. You've got to ask the closing question and shut up. There might be an uncomfortable silence, okay? I promise you it won't last more than 3 seconds. You'll want to talk 18,000 times in that 3 seconds, but ask the closing question. Shall we secure that for you? Hey, did you want to do that over the 36 months? Or is it more comfortable over the 48? Or I'll be able to have that car ready for you by next Thursday. Or listen, would you do me a favor? Will you give me till Friday just to get that right? Ask that question and then you can uncover that objection. Okay. Now, if they take your hand, shake your hand and say, yeah, great, we'll do that. Take it as a bonus. Anyway, listen, that'll outdo it for now, okay? Because these training sessions, I know a lot of people lay them in their sales meeting in the mornings, okay? So I'll kind of keep it a little bit shorter if I can. So listen, do me a favor. If you like this episode, please share it, like it. On Apple, I think you're meant to go and do a review or something like that. If you do that, we really, really do appreciate that, okay? Everyone that sends us a review and let us know you've done the review, you know we'll send you through a free book, okay? Words that sell cars. We still do that because we really do love it. Share this with all your people. And I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to listen to it. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn. Thank you.